After news that a former royal employee admitted to being bullied by Meghan Markle, people are digging up the details of Meghan's visit to the Suva market, showing her poor attitude. Let's analyze it in this video. Hello and welcome back to the Queen channel. In 2018, during a tour to Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and Tonga, basically right after she and Harry got married, Meghan showed some unexpected hostility towards the public, which was pretty unusual compared to previous trips. At the time, Fiji Market was having an event held on a day for women's empowerment and entrepreneurship. But all of a sudden, everything became an absolute mess when Meghan Markle cut short her interaction with what was happening and she just left. Security was escorting her away rapidly, leaving many people feeling disappointed. There was a Daily Mail reporter on the trip, and this reporter claims they saw Meghan Markle turn and hiss at a member of her entourage, obviously incandescent with rage about something, and demand to leave. They also wrote that they watched an employee of the charity there, a woman, sitting down and crying. Her face showed a lot of upset and anger, like she had just suffered some great humiliation. The incident, of course, was spun by palace staff as a security issue. There was, however, no evidence to support this claim, but it did lead some to speculate that Meghan Markle was dissatisfied with a charity that she was no longer involved with. The truth is, Meghan Markle doesn't care about anybody but herself, so of course, she didn't care about those Fijian women or how long they were getting ready and waiting for her in the hot sun. Security issue, yeah right. Fiji police were also there and they would have known all about any security issues. Apparently, Meghan Markle got all offended because those poor women were wearing t-shirts from another charity. How incredibly rude. And this is why royal visits have rules and run smoothly usually. Meghan didn't respect any of that as usual. And of course, then they tried to put out all these rumors that the incident in Fiji was because of security issues. So insulting to the lovely Fijian people. Harry and Meghan are so crass, so entitled. And this event really impacted the perception of Meghan Markle's behavior and also how successful that tour ended up being. It caused a lot of disappointment and even confusion among both media personnel and attendees. So let's contrast this with other royal visits, especially Queen Elizabeth II's trip to Bergen-Belsen and her historic visit to the Republic of Ireland back in 2011. It really demonstrates the amazing impact of royal engagements when conducted with sensitivity and cultural awareness. It is obvious that Meghan does not possess these characteristics. She's simply too flawed to be a representative of the royal family. She's too much of a narcissist. She shows no compassion for other people. And it looks like Harry is just as bad as Meghan is. Now, Fiji is a beautiful place, but what Harry and Meghan did was awful, so rude. There are so many stories from people who went to an event that they were going to be at in Wellington, and they walked right past the crowd without even saying hello. Harry has been to New Zealand a few times, and this rude behavior began after Meghan Markle, that piece of trash, came along. Too bad, though, Harry's too weak to stand up to her. He just lets her do whatever she wants. So honestly, I think what Meghan did certainly ruined the royal family's efforts to come together for a long time. The mainstream media gave her way too soft a ride. They were too kind to her. She showed such disgraceful behavior on that Australian, Fiji, New Zealand trip. No member of the royal family comes back in such a hurry. And honestly, at this point in time, I wouldn't blame Australia if they don't even want a visit from the king this year. He might not be welcome, and that's a sad thing. Harry and Meghan did not care who they hurt, though. They didn't care how much damage they did. It was obvious from the outset that Meghan had no desire to stay and work hard as a senior member of the royal family. Because if that was the lifestyle she had wanted, she could have had it. She could have studied hard, she could have learned from trustworthy people, and she could have learned how to become a proper royal. But obviously, it didn't happen quite like that. Instead, Meghan's goal from the very beginning was to just hold on to that title that she got when she married Harry, and she has achieved that so far. She knew Harry would never be king, and she would never be queen. It was going to be natural instead for her to curtsy to other people, and this was something she couldn't accept. So basically having to work hard and not getting to wear a crown at the same time. Oh, no, no, no. That wasn't good enough for Meghan Markle. She's a narcissist. She wanted it all. And that's why she encouraged Harry to run away from his family. And obviously he was complicit. So aside from holding that title and being the son of the king and having a position on the State Advisory Council, Harry doesn't do anything to help the people of the UK. We can certainly say the same for Meghan. Instead, what they do is ruin a lot more than they create. When we take a look back at the images from Fiji Market, we see more of the real nature of Meghan, this narcissistic succubus. I'm curious what the staff there thought when meeting the two of them for the first time at an event like that. I mean, those poor women spent such a long time getting ready for the market, and then they were treated like crap by this trashy, narcissistic witch. The only female empowerment Meghan is interested in is her own. It disgusts me to know that this horrible user took such advantage of these beautiful women who simply wanted a moment of her time, that's all. I guess Meghan forgot that she was supposed to be there representing the late Queen, and so she should have seen it as a privilege to do so. But no, she doesn't care about what she's supposed to be doing. She just allows her own feelings to dictate her behavior. Harry really made the worst choice in marriage that he could possibly have made. This woman came to stir up trouble, nothing more, nothing less. The royal family is now a lot better off without the two of them. Shame on Harry, though. He should know better. He doesn't deserve any respect for what he has allowed Meghan to do to the family he allegedly loves. Meghan's awful, entitled, undiplomatic behavior in Fiji really showed it was a great thing that both she and Harry left the UK and didn't continue doing royal work. When the late Queen wanted to meet up with Meghan and she said that she was busy, I believe that was when Harry and Meghan were read the riot act. I guess it was because of Meghan Markle's shocking rudeness that she was put on the plane to Canada, and Sophie was there to make sure she got on it. Otherwise, I think she would have continued causing problems and being an absolute nightmare. Honestly, Meghan is still a nightmare. It doesn't really matter where she ends up. Wherever she goes, you know trouble is going to be following closely behind. So how could anybody trust these two? They're incompetent, they're lazy, they're work shy, they're absolutely useless. They canceled so many royal engagements, and they showed up late to many others. There was simply no commitment on Meghan Markle's part. She wanted to live the fancy privileged lifestyle, but she didn't want to have to do anything in return. She's such a parasite. Honestly, I think that the late Duke was acting on advice from palace officials, saying that Meghan needed to leave the UK. She was doing way too much harm. The fact is, she was giving all kinds of information to the British media, and then Harry had the gall to blame the media for all their problems. It's ridiculous. And if you just look closely, it's pretty clear to see that Meghan Markle is the cause of so much instability. See, Meghan is not very smart, though. She doesn't have an original idea in that head of hers. She believes herself to be superior to everybody else, but she's not classy at all. She's just trashy. Do you remember Meghan Markle's nasty behavior at Charles' 70th birthday garden party? Sticking her tongue out and saying, "Harry, let's go, this is boring." Guests overheard her say that. And so then they were told in no uncertain terms that they needed to leave. And this was right after they got married. If nothing else, at least we can say that Meghan's rude, despicable behavior has been pretty consistent. Australia might be, though, where Meghan left the worst impression. There are so many rumors about bullying and being horrible to staff, and there are even times when Meghan complained that the Governor-General and his wife should leave Admiralty House so that she could stay there with her whole entourage. A wing wasn't enough for her. She also said she couldn't believe that she was not being paid to do a walkabout. Who does she think she is? Australians are never going to forget or forgive that kind of ugly behavior. As a result, I think Australia was one of the first places to be done with the two of them. They'll never be welcome back in Australia again. Because as usual, Meghan tried to make that trip all about her. I mean, we saw it back then. Meghan Markle does not have what it takes to be royal. She and Harry are such a joke. No wonder people around the world are laughing at them. Her father told her when she was young that she could be anything she wanted to be, and I guess she decided that being a pathological liar narcissist was a great idea. And at this point, Meghan has a really overinflated sense of entitlement. She always has to be the center of attention. She has to get all the admiration. Every single day, Meghan shows us how evil she really is. But there are some idiots out there who want to ignore her evil ignorance, and that makes them even dumber than she is. I'm talking about the Sugar Squad, of course. They have ignored, they have excused her narcissistic, hateful behavior. What about how she acted during the South Africa tour? Of course, I'm talking about how Meghan complained that nobody asked her if she was okay. Or what about how disrespectful she was during the foreign tour to Morocco? Holding hands in public, showing PDA, walking up to the Moroccan king first, shaking his hand before Harry did? Nothing, and I mean nothing, can justify this kind of behavior. I cannot imagine how embarrassed the late queen was that her representatives acted like that during their foreign tours. Harry and Meghan are so ignorant. They don't even understand the spirit of connection when they represent an entire country. That's why we cannot even compare them to the late queen. So let's take a look at Queen Elizabeth's visit to Ireland on the other hand. It was all about trying to mend the horrors of the past. She and Prince Philip showed their acknowledgement of the country and the acknowledgement of the history the country had suffered. Meghan and Harry will never be able to understand that. They only think about themselves. And honestly, I think her behavior in Fiji is proof of that. Nobody, though, needs to be making excuses for those grifters. They don't need to make an effort, remember, because they're not heirs to the throne. Now, at the time, they still had the title, and they were still senior members of the royal family. They were still representing the monarchy and the country. Every member is supposed to be dedicated to their duty and working hard. For example, look at Princess Anne. She's always so supportive. Now, I know somebody who met Princess Anne at an event. They were outside, it was a cold, gray day, and it was raining. But she made a point of stopping and speaking with every single person who was there, every single person who was volunteering, and also a few who benefited from the services the charity offered. Now that is a hard-working royal. Princess Anne also has an amazing ability to really connect to other people. She hears just a little bit of information about them, and then she'll take that information and start up a little conversation, asking the person about what she's learned. She really knows how to relate to other people, and she knows how to thank others for what they've done, for their service to charity or whatever it is. And that, again, is what royal work is supposed to be about. It's not supposed to be about getting a bunch of attention for oneself. Meghan is not even going to do something like shaking hands with the public. Remember, she thinks she's better than everybody else. She shouldn't have to mix with the hoi polloi, right? Meghan has shown her disgusting behavior on too many occasions from the very start. Even in the early days of her marriage to Harry, she has shown who she really is, and she treats people so poorly. She gets away with too much without any accountability. Meghan ran away from the UN Women group because she had a previous incident with them, apparently. Reportedly, Meghan had a falling out with the UN Women because they wouldn't give her what she wanted. They wouldn't give her a prominent leadership role. On the day of the Fiji market visit, when she saw that UN Women were represented there, well, she allowed her personal feelings to get in the way of work. No surprise there. She told her team of royal employees to stop the whole thing, and she caused this unnecessary, very stressful exit, confusing and disappointing many people who were there for her visit. So even though those people had been waiting hours just to see her, she decided she was going to refuse to shake hands with them and speak with them because they represented something that reminded her of something uncomfortable in her past. How disrespectful! On the other hand, the late Queen Elizabeth, she entertained some very sketchy people in her time, and it was all because of diplomacy and on behalf of the government. I'm sure she wasn't all that excited about the arrangement, but she carried it out with grace and dignity because that was her duty. That's something Meghan will never understand. She's always holding on to grudges. She's too vindictive in her heart, and she simply doesn't care who she hurts. Meghan is not only unprofessional, she's also incredibly immature. She never wanted to work hard. She didn't think that marrying a prince would mean that she would have to work hard, unless, of course, she was getting paid millions for it. Her ego is so overinflated. Her sense of importance is just out of this world, and obviously it hasn't stopped. I mean, like so many comments, why was her behavior not reported at the time? Her behavior at the governor's home in Australia should have been reported. But it seems like once upon a time, Meghan Markle was protected by the royal family. And it's horrible what she and Harry have done, the way they have insulted the people who covered up for their bad behavior. So I think it's a lucky thing that the grifters no longer represent the royal family. See, the big difference is the real members of the royal family don't act like they're so special. They don't expect special treatment. They treat their staff with dignity and respect. They have humility and they're kind, but Meghan Markle is an empty vessel. She doesn't have any empathy for anybody. She shows no compassion. She and Harry expect special treatment wherever they go, and they act like they are so important. Their behavior and their over-the-top expectations are what have made them into the garbage we see today. Meghan was welcomed with open arms, don't believe anything else. And then she proceeded to trash everybody and call them racist. See, Meghan Markle refuses to interact with the commoners. Time and time again, we have seen this kind of behavior from Meghan, low-class behavior, so disgraceful, completely lacking in etiquette, showing no dignity, no integrity, showing no respect for other people. She is simply unfit for decent society. She has caused such a mess. Just imagine trusting Harry and Meghan Markle to do any tours. I mean, that would be like sending a couple of moody tweens out there. So they simply weren't up to the job, that much we can see now. And then remember how Harry claimed that other members of the royal family were jealous of Meghan because she was doing a better job at being a royal than they were. My God, how delusional can two people be? Did Harry not claim in the Oprah interview that their Australian tour was such a success? But for some reason, they were met with shock at the homecoming? No wonder. It was because of all the embarrassment they caused. They were just so rude, so inappropriate. Now, if Meghan Markle really had to go for some kind of health reasons, you would think the women should have gotten sincere apologies, both at the scene and afterwards. That interview told us all we needed to know. From the very beginning, I picked up on this. There were so many holes in their stories, and Oprah never bothered to call them out on this. Both Harry and Meghan contradicted themselves over and over again, and each other too. If you're honest, your stories make sense. Harry and Meghan's stories never make sense. I'm guessing they didn't realize it at the time, but obviously looking back, the palace let a monster in. It's such a good thing that Meg's had happened. I mean, that is not the behavior a good leader shows. Meghan obviously has no empathy or regard for anybody, and the public made so much effort to get ready for her visit. So no wonder Meghan is back in her proper place, selling some jam on Instagram. The only reason she married Harry in the first place was for money and fame. That's all he means to her, nothing more. Harry was like an immature little boy, just trusting anything that Meghan said, completely falling for her lies. It seems like they had plans from the very start to cash in on those titles. They were already in discussions with Netflix and other companies in 2019. And Meghan Markle stayed in communication with her LA advisors throughout her whole stay in the UK. You see, Meghan was convinced that she was too good for royal duty. She hated them. She famously said, "I can't believe we're not getting paid for this." Meghan acted like such a spoiled brat during that tour. The Fiji tour showed that Meghan never was and never was going to be humanitarian. She was supposed to be there to represent the Commonwealth and show respect and support to Fiji. But no, Meghan was convinced, as always, that it was all about her. And she got really bored when she realized that she wasn't really the star. She's such a narcissist. I think the day of their wedding, most of us saw that this was never going to work. And I'm sure those Fijian people felt so upset. I mean, how sad that those people were so excited to meet her and Harry, and basically they were treated like garbage. But look who has the last laugh. The women actually have friendships with each other. They have wonderful craft skills, and they have grace. But Meghan, what does she have? Well, she's got a few jars of jam, some destroyed friendships, and not much else. Meghan didn't even wave to anybody once she was inside the car. She just looked right ahead. It seemed obvious to me that she did not want to be there, and it wasn't the type of place that she was interested in. She wanted to be somewhere more glamorous. This is not a woman of the people, not even the least. I mean, I know she likes to act like it, calling other black women her sisters. Meghan Markle is sister to nobody, not even her biological sister. The fact is, Meghan never had what it takes to be a royal, neither did Harry for that matter. Otherwise, he would have chosen a better wife. Meghan had such a privileged life handed to her on a silver platter, but she was never going to be content with anything, and so she threw it all away. I do hope, though, they go on to live their lives quietly and privately, somewhere out of the public eye, because after all, they want privacy, right? But I'm afraid that's never going to happen, because Meghan is too obsessed with getting attention for herself. Harry complained about the attention they got since he was a baby, but now that it doesn't come for free, he has found that he doesn't feel all that important, and he wants the camera flashes back. Harry and Meghan have rendered those titles absolutely meaningless because they are such a disgrace. The sooner they lose those titles, the better. I mean, they think they're better than the royals in the UK. They act like they are above everybody else. Harry picked a real loser in Meghan, but actually Harry's a loser too, so I guess it makes sense. And she picked him, let's be honest about that. I don't think he ever really wanted her. So it's about time for those titles to be stripped, and we can be done with those two once and for all. The more and more we see their behavior, the more and more we see how disgusting they are. And I hope the truth about the surrogacy comes out ASAP. And what about Meghan throwing hot tea on a staff member? How about the royal reporters try to investigate the alleged fire at that residence in South Africa? It's about time for somebody to ask the staff some questions, or anybody who was there that day. I hope we get the truth. Now, as royal reporters, people have seen how Meghan and Harry acted during public engagements, how rude they were, especially Meghan. I hope the royal reporters will be more honest and tell us more information. For example, what about that engagement where Meghan Markle kept basically avoiding that little boy who just wanted to get her attention? Or what about the time when she was with her mother and Harry, and her mother interrupted her and she gave her the evil eye? What about that time when she was on the train trip with the Queen, and during the walkabout, she walked ahead of the late Queen, in spite of the staff warning her beforehand to never do that? Meghan shows who she really is, and it's not a pretty picture. Meghan hated having to work for the benefits she received while being a royal. So she decided to grift off the royal family, and then she grifted off Spotify too. Meghan Markle is a piece of trash. She failed to understand that royal work wasn't all about her. It wasn't about what she wanted. She's just way too self-absorbed. So it's important that we stop giving them so much attention. Narcissistic behavior is absolutely enabled by people around them. So the best way to handle a narcissist is by making fun of them and ignoring them altogether. If only Meghan Markle could actually focus a little bit on her own work, things could be so much different. Meghan Markle never even bothered to read the dossiers that were given to them before tours. If she had read them, she would have understood that these women would be there at the markets. The other royal family members understand the people they visit. They understand the customs and they understand the culture beforehand. That incident in Morocco made it obvious that Meghan Markle refused to do her homework. I mean, basically shoving Harry, the prince, aside so that she could grab the king's hand first. Oh my God, such bad manners. And then when she tried to walk on the red carpet for a ceremony, the British ambassador's wife had to stop her. She was told she needed to walk on the concrete beside the carpet. She wasn't born a royal. That was Harry's privilege. All her tours really told us who she was, that she's a despicable character, and she has a horrible attitude. So all this time, that is what we have seen from Meghan. She's basically had one failure after another. Nobody dislikes her because of the color of her skin or her race. It's all about her personality and her horrible attitude. Meghan never cared about becoming a hard-working proper royal. That was never her aim. Meghan simply doesn't understand what that means. Being a working royal is all about service to others. It's all about hard work and about being humble. Meghan doesn't understand those concepts at all. Meghan was never interested in understanding the job description. She just wanted to change it. Now, eventually, of course, she had to leave, but that's what she had planned from the very beginning. She figured after she got what she wanted, she'd take her prince and run back to Hollywood. And that's exactly what she did. Well, friends, that brings us to the end of this video. And you, what do you think about this visit from the Sussex couple? Please discuss this with us by commenting. And if you agree with my opinion, please also leave a comment. If not, please let us know so that we can better understand your opinion. Don't forget to like and share this video. Your support is our motivation. And let's also subscribe to receive notifications about the newest videos. We'll be back soon. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.